been in the industry 24 years now. How I got in freight was interesting. Yeah, I'm in Chattanooga, Tennessee. So we've got before Freight Alley was Freight Alley. We had obviously a couple large trucking companies here, U.S. Express and Covenant, and I ended up in a finance role at U.S. Express, first job, fresh out of school, and it just kind of worked out. And the rest is kind of like many people's stories. You get hooked into freight and transportation and logistics, and
The trucking industry is crazy right now, and being a broker can be stressful. Managing your invoices, billing, collecting, carrier base, and cash flow can feel like an impossible task. But I can tell you, OTR Solutions has figured out the impossible. They eliminate cash flow problems for carrier payments and ensure margin funding in just 24 hours with broker invoice factoring. OTR Solutions takes care of billing and collection processes with your shippers. And with lightning quick and accurate invoicing, your customers will never need another broker to handle their freight needs. Kick back, relax, and let OTR take care of your brokerage. If you want to know more, and I hope you do, check them out at otrsolutions.com/freight-caviar to see what they can do for your business. Or give them a call. They love to talk to brokers at 770-882-0124. We've partnered with Ascend TMS, the world's most popular and top-rated transportation management system. It's the ultimate tool for all your freight needs. You can use our referral code RA-FreightCaviar to receive 3 months of Ascend TMS for free. It only takes 20 seconds to sign up and no credit card is required. You can click the link below to learn more. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Freight Caviar podcast. Today's guest is Ryan Rogers, the founder and CEO of TextLocate. Ryan, you've been one of the first sponsors of Freight Caviar. I still remember to this day when you DM'd me on Instagram asking me if you could potentially sponsor some posts. And here we are almost 2 years later. That was at the beginning of TextLocate. That was, I think, August 2021. And so we have a pretty extensive history. We've seen each other in San Diego, Orlando, Cleveland, which was just a surprise. We were at the same football game. I have a TextLocate Yeti here, if everyone can see.
nice.
I also have this iPhone holder from TextLocate. So we go far back, and Bob has had the opportunity of meeting you. We hung out in Chattanooga. So definitely looking forward to talking to you, Ryan, about your journey. If you could just quickly introduce yourself to the audience, kind of tell us how you got into the transportation industry.
Yeah. So, well, first, thanks for having me on, Paul. And yeah, it's great to talk from that original conversation that we had over Instagram. It's funny how things work out. And so, giving you my background, been in the industry 24 years now. How I got in freight was interesting. Yeah, I'm in Chattanooga, Tennessee. So we've got before Freight Alley was Freight Alley. We had obviously a couple large trucking companies here, U.S. Express and Covenant, and I ended up in a finance role at U.S. Express, first job, fresh out of school. And it just kind of worked out. And the rest is kind of like many people's stories. You get hooked into freight and transportation and logistics. And I didn't know what I wouldn't know at the time is how interactive it was, how much more tech's involved in freight, all the, I guess, challenges and complications of problem solving. And it was really interesting from my perspective to get dialed in with that. And I like solving problems. And so I started in a finance role there at US Express and back office, and kind of grew throughout, the ranks there over time, kind of climbed the corporate ladder. And it was a little bit of hodgepodge of any kind of back office operations and things like that. And then ended up getting transition into a non-asset business for the family there with US Express. And it really excited me about technology and people. A lot different. And then I ended up managing their brokerage operation at US Express, and just, I don't know, I guess got reeled in, as they say. And then from there, spent some time with Amazon on the procurement side, and then spent some time at Covenant, Covenant Logistics, managing some of their tech and then their brokerage as well. So M&A and activities like that. So I've just, I don't know how it's worked out, but I've just been around freight and logistics and supply chain for, like I said, 24 years now.
Yeah, that's remarkable. And I know like throughout those 24 years, a lot has changed in Chattanooga. Can you just kind of tell us how overall Chattanooga has changed from being just like you said, U.S. Express and Covenant to now it seems like on every corner there's a logistics company and also a lot of freight tech going on too.
Yeah, there's a tremendous amount of it in Chattanooga. I think from if you look back from that original kind of founding of those two large trucking companies, which kind of really sparked off of another company, Southwest Motor Freight, that the grandfather had started, and the dad, and they kind of said, okay, hey, I want to start my own. So I think having that entrepreneurial spirit is what really has enabled Chattanooga from off of those two trucking companies have created a other freight brokers, and then those freight brokers have sold and things have changed, and it sparked ideas and entrepreneurs to start their own. So now we do have I don't have the exact count, but we have a lot of obviously a lot of text locate customers and a lot of freight brokers here in Chattanooga. And then we do have like for example, Reliance is here as well on the insurance. So the diversification has occurred as well. And then some startups and other pieces that have started bringing some freight tech as well, because it is easier to start outside of Silicon Valley now more than ever. Obviously over the past 10 years, that trend has been occurring. So now you can kind of with the tools that we have in the marketplace, you can live wherever you want to, as long as you have good access to internet and good capabilities. From that standpoint, you can build businesses wherever you want to be.
Yeah.
And so Chattanooga's embraced that.
To your point, the internet speeds are like the I think the quickest in the States, or like the fastest internet.
Yeah,
In
I think
Chattanooga?
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, in Chattanooga.
Oh,
So
well.
we were originally called Gig City. We rolled out our electric power board. Actually, you know, was innovative and took a leap of faith with some particular like government funding and things like that. That there was some opportunity to capitalize there with investment in some older technology and introduced it with fiber optics. So yeah, we have great internet speed now. Most of the country is obviously caught up to that, but we have quick internet activity, which makes it good. And we're also kind of a mid-sized city that things are fairly reasonable. Housing market obviously is much more expensive here than it has been over the past several years, like it is everywhere else. But
Yeah.
it's reasonable to from a price perspective to start a business here, and you also you can find good, hardworking people. And now with some freight brokers, I think what's happened is since they got to certain sizes, it's created more talent, and with that more talent has allowed some other people to come to Chattanooga and start some freight brokerages because they're like, hey, there's a good talent pool here, like there is in many of the other cities in the U.S. But that's been
Yeah.
attractive for Chattanooga.
Definitely. And
Yeah.
Bob and I visited Chattanooga back in March. I think Bob was kind of surprised by I mean, I was surprised too, just because we visited so many companies. Bob, what were your thoughts when we visited Chattanooga?
I honestly did not expect that there's going to be that much, freight brokerage and freight stuff going on in Chattanooga. Because I mean, I talked about this. My sister lives in Cleveland, Tennessee, and I visited. It's Cleveland is like 15, 20 minutes away from Chattanooga, and I went to Chattanooga before, but I never thought that there's that much trucking stuff going on in Chattanooga.
Yeah.
So it was really cool to see that, and it was Ryan. Thanks for taking us because that was like completely different for me. Because usually I'm just in the truck or I know the driver side of it or the carrier side of it because that's all I know. I've never been to the broker side of things, so it was definitely really really cool to see.
It was
I had a
it was
question.
fun.
So
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
And it was only, and you didn't really see too much, but it was at least to scratch the surface with, there's a lot of other companies out there. But I think also, I think what Craig's done at FreightWaves has been great for our industry. I mean, it's brought a lot of attention for the industry. And additionally, obviously Chattanooga, it's brought a lot of people. And then I think exposure, with FreightWaves here back in November, it'll be
yeah.
here again this November. That's been really good for people
Yeah.
to, we get a lot of good compliments on the city.
Definitely.
So
We
that
Yeah.
should
helps.
So
we should go back.
freight waves, freight
Or
waves does a thing every year where people come there, or how does that work?
Yeah, so they did the first year they were looking at it during kind of COVID time, and it was a
Uh-huh.
little challenging there, but and what they had scheduled. But the first big F3 was here back in November in Chattanooga, And so they're going to repeat that and be back here in Chattanooga. And hopefully, I think they'll stay here with that November timeframe each
Mm-hmm.
year in Chattanooga. So the turnout was really good. The response rates, from what I heard, have been really good. So yeah, that's their big conference.
Hey there, amazing listeners. If you're enjoying what you're hearing on our podcast, we need your support. It will only take a moment, but it would mean the world to us. Please make sure to hit the like button on this video, subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to share with one of your friends that would enjoy our content. Your engagement helps us reach more people and bring more awesome episodes to you. Thanks a million, and thanks for being part of the podcast community.
Paul, are
Yeah.
we going to the next one?
We'll have to go there in November, and we
Yeah.
could do a part 2 of the city.
That would be
Since
pretty cool.
Ryan's saying that when we scratch the surface, we have to keep going and scratching more of the surface.
Yeah.
So
Ryan, so you mentioned basically, I kept hearing like basically the tech, and freight. Have you noticed in the last 24 years, like certain years or certain moments where tech has become a huge thing in the trucking industry? Because for me, it seems like it became a huge thing a couple of years ago, or was it always like something new, something evolving in the freight industry?
No, I feel like, and I don't know date wise to get this exactly right, but over the past, let's call it 5 or 6 years, I think there's been more interest in it and more awareness with that as far as accelerating those investments. And that's what I feel like. It's hard to get the exact date, but there was innovation. It's obviously a big market. There's a lot of challenges, a lot of opportunities and growth.
Yeah.
But I feel like it was this pace of innovation was slower. And then, yeah, I would say over the past, let's call it 5 to 7 years, it feels like it has definitely accelerated. Maybe it's like 8 or 9 years, something like that. But it's definitely people are attracting more interest to it. And it may be just that, as the supply channels change, the models change, things with like influences from Amazon and the speed of delivery and warehousing and growth and population, all those kind of things, I think started that, and it piqued a lot of interest for others to, and tools. I mean, SaaS-based products coming to market, cloud environments, with the launch to that, more and more aggressive has allowed the flexibility to build those things.
Yeah, I feel like from my side, I feel like maybe I'm just getting into it, but there's been like a boom in the whole freight tech industry. I wonder, what are your thoughts? Do you think we're already kind of at the peak of it, or there's still a lot of growth for people to get into the tech section of the freight industry?
I think given our size, there's still a lot of growth. There's people coming up with new ideas all the time that I talk to or bump into. And I think given the size, given the fact that we're very decentralized kind of market, I think there's tremendous opportunity to continue to grow with new ideas. I think it's important to come up with fresh new ideas that necessarily try to follow along with some things, because I do think, the market's excised and adoption. It takes time to adopt new ideas in our industry. So, but those new brainstorms, I think, are great. I think it's good to see that and see what's changed. And I also think we have seen a few of the smaller like startups that are, kind of looking at some of the bigger ideas that have been out there, or the bigger companies, and said, "Hey, let's take a fresh approach to that, a little bit different." So that's been good too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to touch on the topic of US Express and Covenant. You did mention, Ryan, that before the grandfather, because this all traces back from the Fuller family. So Craig Fuller is the founder of FreightWaves, and then his father was, if I'm not mistaken, the founder of US Express, or his grandfather.
Correct.
So his father.
His father.
And then his uncle was the founder of Covenant Logistics. Yeah,
that's correct.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then their grandfather started. You said Southwest Motor, was it?
Yeah, he originally got into. I should know the name, but a company off the West Coast that he originally started with teams, and then he ended up starting Southwest Motor Freight. The grandfather did, and when he sold, he looked at selling the business. he had built an owner operator network for both Max Fuller and David Parker. And so they decided to, as that transition occurred, like many businesses, when they go through a sale or something happens, they decided to go take those owner operators and kind of found their own trucking companies. And again, two of the largest right here in Chattanooga, and they're kind of on opposite sides of town. And
Yeah.
two really good companies.
Yeah, and you had the opportunity to work at both. You started at US Express, and then
I
you were
did.
eventually at Covenant, which is also interesting. But you also worked on the M&A side, which is mergers and acquisitions at Covenant. And Covenant, being a publicly traded company, they buy a lot. I'm guessing they buy a lot of companies. I just saw a month ago they purchased a trucking company that specialized. I forgot what they specialized in, but I think it might have been poultry. That's what they specialize in, shipping. So they probably had their own customers. How was the merger and acquisition side of Covenant? What did you learn from there? Because you also have a finance background, right? And how did that prepare you for like starting your own freight tech company? What did you learn from that?
Yeah, I think a couple of things that I really like the M&A side, because if you can find things that are complementary offering to what you have, I think makes a ton of sense, and it's very effective and accretive for the business. We ended up buying a company that at Covenant, they were wanting to get more diversification out of just transactional transportation and trucking, and get, let's say, closer to the customer. So we bought a company that had more, it really had more like warehousing space. So for them, that was a very nice complementary offering that expand their diversification. So some people, look for products like that. Some look for just how do I get bigger with my customer base. So I think both of those ways work. But I would say my entire journey, from when I started, is what helped me to, take the consideration to start Textlocate and to feel like I was prepared to do it. I obviously did this at a typically like a much later stage of life than most people do. I'm doing it, I had a startup at age 45, which is quite different than most, but I had helped build businesses underneath those platforms between US Express and Covenant, and I felt like I had the skills, and I found a niche for a want and a need in the market. But I think as far as like what prepares you for it, I mean, nothing fully prepares you for the risk. You just have to kind of jump out there. But as far as preparing you for how to build it and things like that, like as far as understanding the workflow and the needs and what the market suggests, is learning from those other businesses, obviously being curious in the market, working with other partners and seeing their opportunity for those ideas, and then being disciplined. We're a bootstrap company. We started fresh out, self-funded, started the business day one with an MVP product, and we've grown from there. But it really comes back to, we talked about it earlier, the grit, the hustle, the determination, finding a good market fit for the actual product, and then, working hard, working smart, and working long hours. Takes all three.
Yeah, it
Oh yeah.
does.
Oh yeah. That's literally
I
what
mean,
you
look
have
at
to
y'all's businesses. Y'all do the same thing all the time. So
Mhm.
Yeah. Definitely with the business, you gotta have the kind of hustle mentality and just keep showing up every single day. Keep showing up, no matter if you feel good, if you feel bad. You just gotta show up and get it done. And eventually, I think it will pay off. So that's what I noticed on my side. I don't know,
and obviously
but
those bad days are the harder ones to show up, but
yeah,
uh,
yeah,
but you got to do it every day, and continue, because I mean the reality is, and look at all the people that have built successful businesses. Rarely do you see one that just had instant success. I mean, if you go back and Paul, you talk about a lot of the origin stories for people. It's hard work, it's determination, grit, hustle, and working long hours and pouring time into it. It takes a lot. Even the most successful businesses out there, you go, oh well, that was easy. No, it wasn't. You
yeah.
don't remember. You don't remember the good old days.
There's a
You know,
there's a quote that somebody said, my overnight success, it took me like 10 years to build or whatever. People just don't see it.
exactly.
They see the overnight success. They
Yeah.
think, oh, this is a successful company. It was easy for him. But they don't see all the time you put into it, all the hustle that you put into it. So
Definitely.
that's for
Well,
sure.
in a lot of startups, I mean, it doesn't go like this. It may be a hockey stick. You have to put forth years and years and years and years of that, and then it starts taking off, and having exponential growth at that point in time.
Yeah, and but to your point, to that point, I do have to say that you did take off very quickly with TextLocate, because you launched, Ryan, in August of 2021. I'm not sure, maybe it was the Instagram promotions of TextLocate on Instagram.
It was freight caviar. Yeah.
But overall, you did a remarkable job, and you got the traction. You go on LinkedIn, you go on Instagram, you see there's a lot of TextLocate marketing. And then what I noticed is that at conferences, you're laser focused on meeting as many people, talking, and getting. I remember when a client took out their credit card and purchased it at TIA in San Diego back in 2022. So
yeah,
you definitely have that personality, Ryan, where you're able to get customers, which is like sometimes people are afraid of, talking to people. You're a go-getter. But to that point, could you kind of tell us about like the sales process of selling TextLocate? And because like in my mind, you've been very successful with getting customers to use it. Can you give some feedback, or not even feedback, some advice to people that also would want to grow their business?
Yeah, I think again, it's that determination. You have to, I mean, when you're at a conference like that, well, first of all, I would say no matter what you're doing, you need to be genuine and thoughtful around how you like sales and transactions, not just now, but with software and things, but a lot of it takes long term. So you don't, like, for example, we've won customers that I've been working on for 18 months, and just win them. You just never know when the sales cycle it may work. So you always want to be intentional, help others, and be direct and straightforward. But when you're at a conference, or there's just an opportunity to meet a lot of people. I mean, just that, I encourage my team, just say hello, talk to somebody in an elevator. I know it can be draining. I know you're tired, you can be exhausted from this, but just make sure you're saying hello, you're bringing awareness, listen to what their needs are, and then share with them ideas that you have that can help them work through that. So it's there's no, I don't think, super scientific way to do it. It's just a matter of being persistent, being consistent with touch points with people, and being genuine about it, and engaging with them. But it's tough. I mean, it gets to be, if nobody makes it. I mean, it may look easier, and most things look easier than they really are. But it takes work. It really does. And when you're like, hey, should I just talk to one more person? That can make the difference. It's no different than, in anybody's business. Should I make that one more phone call? Yes. Make the one more phone call. Like, put forth the effort. Even if you've gotten like 10 no's in a row, make the one or two more, whether it's a phone call. We've got so many different tools now, between LinkedIn and email, and, obviously
Social
Instagram
media.
with marketing.
Yeah.
Social media has been excellent. Like, and you'll see, like, our posts are usually, we may have a little fun in there, but we're truly talking about features that our product offers that hopefully fit your needs and make things easier. So again, I would touch on the ones that make sense for you and your customers.
Definitely. And when you said the 18-month sales cycle, you never know. I've had that a few times too, where it's 6, 7 months, 8 months, and all of a sudden you get an email like, "Oh, can we sponsor some posts?" And like,
yeah,
and it's like, send the invoice. So it's been definitely
it's really
cool.
true.
Yeah, and it's been cool for me because I think, Ryan, you're like the first person that made me realize that this could be a business. And this month has been remarkable. Like I have too many customers right now where I'm actually hiring. I need to hire people just to do like account management, because
That's awesome.
It'll be out of hand real soon. So you
Yeah,
were,
I remember talking about that back in the day.
Yeah. And I remember like you offered to pay for the posts, the stories, and I'm like, Ryan, could you like be a mentor for me, to like help me, like kind of guide me? And you helped me realize like there's a business here. People want this. Get people to sponsor it, companies. And so I'm very grateful for that, Ryan. That's been tremendous for me. I'm
glad it worked out really well. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. It's good to see that success.
Yeah.
Ryan,
I
what
knew
kind
you
of
had it.
challenges what kind of challenges have you had like getting into this space though? Like were there some certain challenges that you had to overcome to get out there in a, to make it happen?
Yeah, I think you're always going to experience some sort of challenge. I mean, preconceived notion of what the product does versus what it actually does, is a lot of where you see those challenges. Having time, like getting people's time to give you a few minutes, with
Yeah.
that pitch is again where it can be complicated because I mean, it's not like freight brokers don't have anything to do. I mean, freight
Yeah.
brokers are extremely busy. They're constantly being bombarded, whether it's from the customer side or the carrier side, as far as activity. Sometimes that's good, sometimes it's bad or problem solving. So trying to get on their schedule can be a really a tough challenge. And so again, that's where I would go back to the, being persistent, following up, finding the time that makes sense with them, whenever it's convenient, that can give you exposure, and then making sure that you've got your touch points and your features and your points you want to get across pretty concise, so that if you have a short period of time, can you at least get your point across so that you can follow up with, in our case, it's a product demo. In other cases, it may be having a call with a customer, selling them why to use XYZ, carrier or broker, do whatever you have to make sure you have that, organized in the line.
Is it easier to deal with smaller, I guess, companies, or is it easier to go to bigger companies and deal with them? Like, what would be your ideal, I guess, target customer?
For us, we have both the dashboard and the API, so we have flexibility to work, from with either larger customers or smaller ones. But as far as ease to entry, it just depends. There's not really a rule of thumb that I have found that really works, because some of the larger companies, they have a lot of projects going on, so they can't implement things quite as quickly. So you kind of have to get in line, which is
Hmm.
understandable, and you work with partnership or strategy people, which is great. And then some of the smaller ones you may struggle with, they may not have the capacity. There may just be like two people or three or four, and they're just covered up until you can find that right time so that you can say, hey, this product's easier, because user adoption is the toughest part. We've proven pretty well that our product makes sense and works, but trying to get people to actively use new products, it's a transition. All of us, I mean, we have
It
our
is.
habits and we have our norms, and
Mhm.
trying to think about using something in a different way. It takes time to learn. You have a learning curve up front in trying it different and the discipline. So
Yeah,
that's where I really like, one of the books I really like is Atomic Habits, because it
Mhm.
talks about that. Like, how do you change your behavior? How do you give
Yeah,
things a chance? And
that's
then
a
how
good
do
book.
you create, a positive and negative resistance based on what you're expecting from your outcome?
it's super. What we were talking about is implementing, something new, like a new software or a new strategy. And Ryan, you were talking about how it's hard to get somebody to adapt to anything. And I've noticed that from our side too. We're trying out like new TMS, or like trying to send even like these emails. Like, we tried, Paul, Lost Freight. I've been trying to do that and trying to stay
Yeah.
consistent with every day. It's so hard to
And
just
now,
implement it every single day.
yeah, and now you got to start using shippercrm.com, Bob. So I don't know. You're gonna have to get rid of
That, yeah.
all the
Yeah,
other
Bob, come on.
apps.
Well, and then another
I
thing
know
we
it's a lot.
implemented now, another thing we implemented now for our drivers is basically each day or each morning they have to send us like a daily pre-trip where they have to fill out an actual form and like sign it and take a
Oh.
picture of the truck and the trailer. That way I know, like, because we're trying to get our safety score up and trying to make it like as clean and as legit as possible. So I've noticed like we're trying to implement this new thing, but you have to just stay consistent and on top of, the drivers and on top of everything. Like, hey, keep doing
Oh,
this.
yeah.
Hey, keep trying it. Keep explaining it. So yeah.
How do you get those
It,
pictures, Bob? You could be using text locate. I at least got to try. Sales off.
yeah,
You could be texting you back so everybody sees those pictures.
So
that's
yeah,
true.
actually, to that point, Ryan, could you talk about the new features in Text OK? Because those didn't exist back in the day. What are those text features with photos?
Yeah, so we have a couple. Originally we started with the location services, and then we rolled into the two-way chat. We now have image capture as well, so you can easily share whatever image you want, whether that be documents or To Bob's point, it could be safety, it could be fraud things, pictures of seals, whatever you want. We have total flexibility with, and then we've also rolled out WhatsApp connection as well. So when you think of like Mexico, cross border, the interactions the same as text locate via WhatsApp. And then we've also rolled out some status updates so you can easily, your driver can respond back with, at pickup, in transit, delivered, things like that. So just trying to,
Nice.
make it simplified.
Bob, it
Always, and make
seems like you need
driver.
text locate. It seems like Bob needs
Yeah,
it.
seems like
Bob
it.
does. Bob really
Yeah.
needs it.
I honestly, we need some kind of good, like a in-house TMS software where it could be everything all in once, where we plug in the loads, it sends it to the driver, but before the driver gets it, he's got to do his PTI. There's a lot that goes into it that I didn't even like realize before. It's after 3 years of actually like running the business, I realized there's opportunity or there's things that could be improved by a lot,
Of
So,
course.
yeah.
It's a lot. People don't realize there's a lot more processes and procedures for drivers and for large trucking companies or any trucking company than people really originally expected or thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
The
100%.
life of a truck driver, it's a tough job. It's a tough lifestyle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
It's not easy.
And I mean, at Covenant at US Express, it was thousands of trucks. And I know we talked about this when we had dinner in Chattanooga, but I kind of want to touch on it again. Like, from your point of view, like right now with Bob having a trucking company, like let's just say you own that trucking company, right? What would you be doing in order to like maximize, I guess, the potential of the company?
Yeah, so I would, if I was in Bob's shoes, I would do what he's doing, what he's talking about, and just try to simplify processes as much as possible. Make sure that you're actively looking at like when that, the delivery times and when the truck's arriving and departing, where are you filling as much freight as possible? And then look at what, not all freight's the same. So it could be less expensive, the rate per mile, but it gets you back to where you need for another customer. So make sure you're looking at your mileage, reducing your deadhead, all those things that, you should, disciplines of keeping your costs in line and making sure you're compensating the driver correctly and, really driving those revenue miles and revenue dollars per tractor per week. They can make, obviously the company successful, but you want to make sure you're making the driver successful and your operations team as well.
And I remember you did say, Ryan, that you think that Bob should focus on having a brokerage and using the trucking company as like the assets to get customers. Like,
I think you could do both. We see some, I talk to a lot of customers that have both an asset based and a brokerage. So it's definitely one that you could set up and have both work each other. You know what I mean? So that you get where you can deliver more for your customers, and be, have a stickier relationship with them where you're like, hey, instead of 2 loads today, I can take 3. And you can outsource those to brokerage and, do that with a qualified carrier that gets you good results. And then vice versa. If brokerage brings in more loads with the customer and they can, and you on the asset can handle it, having a blended mix is a really good opportunity.
I was actually talking to, I think it was Lauren from TIA when I met her from Southland. And they were saying, because they're a brokerage based and a carrier, they got a carrier. And it's what's really good about it is when the time is tough, like right now for the carriers, well, they have their brokerage that's kind of keeping them, going. And then when it flips, well, they can offer their customer like, hey, I have 300 trucks or whatever it is, or I have this many trucks. So it's a really good thing to have. But I noticed a lot of brokers don't want you to have like a broker side to it, especially right now if you're working.
They're worried that you might take their customer info or something like that and backsolicit them. That's what they're worried about. But
which you shouldn't do. But there's a lot of customers out there. If you've already got direct relationships, then there's a lot of customer potential out there that
so
Paul's point, Bob, CRM, got opportunity to find there.
Thanks for the shout out, Ryan, for that. But we were at Bob's location back in March, and he's surrounded by shippers. They're just like that location. We visited 5 shippers in within an hour, and we got like 5 phone numbers. So there's definitely potential there, and even just working directly for your trucking company, so you don't have to like rely as much on brokers as possible.
I just got to get out there and get it done, or hire somebody to do it, because like we kind of talked about, there's so much that goes into just even running a trucking company, and I don't want to
Yeah.
get scattered all around and do a little bit of things here and there and just not doing like the things that need to be done, because you could be
Totally.
kind of all over the place and then nothing kind of gets done. So I want to kind of focus, get something really good set up. Then once I have that set up, then move on to something different,
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
or
Definitely.
add on something different. Not move on, but I guess add on and like just keep growing that way.
Right.
Yeah.
I believe in the like build a good strong foundation, because if you build it good, then you won't have it all fall apart. Because if you just do a bunch of little pebbles here and there, then eventually it'll just all fall apart. If you're
Yeah.
chasing, I feel like too many things at once.
You got to specialize in something. That's the most.
Yeah.
That's the best thing.
Well,
You
and,
should.
and most people will say, if you're building something, stay very focused in what you're doing and what you're good at. So
Yeah.
that's a great way to look at it. Discipline with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Trying to improve as much things as possible, make it as safe as possible, and like you said, make it the most, I guess, not easiest, but like most convenient for the drivers, and for everybody around us, because I think that will help out a lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Ryan, to start wrapping up here a little bit, I'm wondering if you could kind of tell us what your vision for TextLocate is. What are your goals for this year and moving forward? And what would you tell someone that wants to be an entrepreneur in this industry, what they should be prepared for?
Yeah, so I think from a TextLocate perspective, we're going to, our objective is to continue to innovate and see where there's opportunities to use, obviously text-based messaging to be as effective as possible for drivers on the road. We appeal, I always say we appeal to the EQ side of drivers. Like, where do we make it easy? How do we complement other products in the market that can help? That's a big thing that we've always started the business on, is how can we help others be successful too? So that's really our vision and where we want to drive the business. As far as like a startup from, if you want to get into the industry, I would just, research the industry a lot. There's a lot of avenues out there with content and media where you can learn more about the business. Ask people, make phone calls, pick up the phone and call people for advice, and think about, exploring those ideas. But the other thing is sometimes you just got to jump in and you got to go for it and start building and growing the business. And whether that's an asset based or a brokerage based, or whether that's technology or what piece of technology, you got to kind of just jump in, and live in it every day. And make sure it's something you really are excited about the industry and about the product that you're offering.
Yeah.
And even if you're not, if you're burnt out, just keep showing up and keep getting it done.
Keep showing
But
up until you need to take a vacation. So it does.
Yeah.
It's helpful. Take a few days off, or take a week off, or go to the lake, go to the beach, go to the mountains, whatever you enjoy. But get recharged a little bit too. Don't forget, that's
So
obviously extremely important.
we had a podcast with Ramel from Truck and Hustle like 3 weeks ago, and like the day afterwards, like Bob started running. And what day are you on right now, Bob? How many days of running?
22. Day 22. I've been waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning and running.
Yeah. So
congrats.
Bob's on a roll.
But now I feel like I'm past my motivation. I'm past my everything. Now it's just like just showing up and getting it done, because I'm so so past that. Like I don't even like care anymore. Now it's just like literally show up and get it done.
Yeah,
So,
that's it's a big key factor in it, is just the small things. You read these different books and different things, perspectives out there, is, hey, just line up your day before, be organized the day before. You talk about running, just put your running shoes out, set them there in the bedroom to remind you, hey, I'm going to get up in the morning. If you can get those running shoes on your feet, the odds of you going out increase much greater. So it's little things that you can impact.
Yeah,
100%. Because then once I'm out already and I'm already like kind of jogging, I'm like, okay, this wasn't as bad. It's like the hardest part is just literally getting up in the morning.
The hardest part is starting and
getting
it done.
Yeah.
But
like,
Paul, you asked Yeah, you
Yeah.
asked the question. I would kind of want to add something where people can learn about freight industry. Watch this podcast. You will learn a lot. The people
You
that we
will.
interview, the people that we talk to. I mean, I've learned so much myself. So I feel like that's a huge, especially right now, kind of like Ryan said, there's so much information out there where you could learn and research about
Yeah.
whatever you want to do. Like, think about how many people we already recorded with, that are completely different parts of the trucking industry that I've never even realized existed. I
Sure.
really myself, I didn't even know existed. Like, now that we interviewed so many people, I'm realizing how big this industry is, and there's so much different opportunity in it. It's insane.
Yeah, totally. And to the point of being just putting your shoes on and start running, like the hardest part about being an entrepreneur is usually just quitting your job, because it's like once you quit your job, then you have no other choice. You just go in
Yeah.
there, and
Yep.
then you learn a lot
Exactly.
about yourself. Like I've learned so much about myself just being an entrepreneur, and I know my strengths and weaknesses.
But you know what? I posted about this on social media. If you're not willing to like sacrifice 5 years of your life, and you should not quit your job. I feel like you should just keep doing what you're doing, because you're gonna regret a lot of things. Like, I feel like some people are not built to do it, Because if I look back on certain things, it kind of, I guess it depends on the person what they want to do, what their like end goal is. Because if your end goal is just to be, successful, to show somebody that you want to do this, you're not gonna make it. You need to kind of like what you're doing, and just be way more, I guess, consistent about it. Because there's a lot of things that you have to sacrifice in order to like succeed, and it's not just what people think. Like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go start, I'm gonna go start a company, or I'm gonna become an entrepreneur, or I'm gonna do this. It's difficult.
Yeah.
Really, really difficult.
Very.
Yeah. The one thing that I could say
But also,
is,
that's the positive, right? I mean, if you really are passionate about it and you love it, then, for me, it's obviously I love to build a business and build a successful one. But when you're helping others and you're able to like see, your product or your offering is doing a great job to build a business and team members and customers. That's what's super cool, is when people are like, hey, I really like this. Like, for example, your customers, hey, you did great service. I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah.
and like,
No,
I
for
mean,
sure.
to that, like I started a brokerage. Like I quit the brokerage I used to work for. I started a brokerage, and the only reason I want to do is because I wanted to make a lot of money. And then in the meantime, I was procrastinating on a lot of things. I didn't actually like doing the work. I wasn't passionate about it, but I started making memes and like funny content. And then, like if I hadn't quit my job and if I hadn't started a brokerage, I would have never started Freight Caviar. So,
Yeah.
sometimes you go down a weird path, and I also had
You
a
don't know
own
where you're gonna
restaurant,
end up.
and then you end up where you want to be. So I guess it's if you take a risk when you're young and you don't have a family, like there's nothing really you're losing or risking. So like if you're young and you want to do it, just do it, and you'll learn from it. And if anything, you could always find a job working for someone else if you want to.
Yeah,
But
100%.
but yeah. So on that note, Ryan, thanks for so much for coming on the podcast. If anyone
Yeah.
would
Thank you,
like
guys.
to learn more about TextLocate, what should they do?
Just hit textlocate.com, or hey, if you want to, shoot me an email, ryan@textlocate.com, or text me however, we're easy to get a hold of. You'll find us out there. Hit me up, follow us on LinkedIn as well.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you for coming on, Ryan. It was nice talking to
you.
you again.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks for tuning in to the Daily Freight Caviar podcast. If you enjoyed the podcast, or if you didn't, leave a review. Let me know what you think. I appreciate any feedback. If you'd like to have more Freight Caviar content, go to freightcaviar.com and subscribe to my email newsletter.